Hi, ladies and gents. This is Alex with Green Revolution again. We are in Purchase College in New York State. I have the great opportunity to be with Gerardo Soto, the food waste expert and one of the leaders within the Rocket Composter company. And I think I'm just going to let you talk because that's a beautiful intro. And go ahead and tell us what you do here, sir, and why is it so important that we care about food waste?
Hi, how are you, Alex? It's nice seeing you. Well, basically, let me tell you a little bit about the work that we do. So we're consultants. Our company is called Food Waste Experts, and we have different solutions for every single site. We believe that one solution does not fit every single site out there. So we have in-vessel composters, aerobic digesters, anaerobic digesters, waste pulpers, and many other different things to treat food waste on site, which is the most important thing. Okay. Rather than sending the food waste all the way to the landfill where it produces methane or contaminates our water streams, we do everything on site. And we're here at Purchase College where we have one of our solutions. It's an in-vessel composter called the Rocket Composter. So just follow me so we can see it.
Wonderful. And so you mentioned these other options, right?
Yes.
And later on we'll get to those other options, but this again is an in-vessel?
Yes, this is an in-vessel composter.
In-vessel composter. I'm just going to span this way to just give our audience, look how big that is, all right? It's called the Rocket, and wow, that is quite large. Okay.
And Alex, this is cutting-edge technology. So this is the simplest way to treat food waste on-site, producing compost in only 14 days.
14 days?
Only 14 days. And what we're doing is we're replicating exactly what happens out in the bushes. So what happens is we open the inlet, and we'll do that in a moment. So we're going to open the inlet. We are going to put food waste and wood chips. That's the right combination. 50% food waste, 50% wood chips. We close the inlet, and that's the end of the process. It's very, very simple. There's nothing else that we need to do.
Wow.
But what happens on the inside? We have a steel shaft with paddles. In fact, if you walk this way,
sure,
you might be able to see those paddles in here.
Okay. And so you literally, like you said, you just put half food waste, half wood chips, and wow, look at that. Yeah, so this is, you can see the food, degrading. You can see some of the metal pallets, not the metal pallets, the metal paddles or the shafts you're talking about.
Correct.
Interesting. Wow, and it's all happening right here. It doesn't smell at all.
Correct. I mean, basically what you put in there is what you're going to get out of there. But at the end of the day, one of the important things about the Rocket is it's very simple to use. So 50% food waste, 50% wood chips. We close the inlet, and there's a steel shaft with paddles, rotates every hour and a half, couple revolutions, providing lots of oxygen.
Okay.
So it's going to start advancing during this part of the rocket
right
until the end. And we reach high enough temperatures to kill the pathogens. And that's why we can put chicken, fish, dairies, everything goes inside the rocket.
Oh, can you repeat that again? What can you put in the rocket?
We can put everything. There's only one thing that we can't put inside the rocket, and that's huge bones, like steak bones.
Okay.
Which we have not seen colleges, universities, or schools feeding steaks to their students. So everything else you can put inside the rocket.
And I think that's a really important point because I've tried many composting initiatives. Some have been more successful than others, and I've had some really good smells and some really bad smells. We always would avoid any sort of animal product, even sort of something that came like a cheese or a milk because of the spoilage organisms, because of the negative bacteria, and because of the attraction of rodents and pests. So you're telling me that you can put in everything, chicken, little chicken bones. We're talking, beef. We can put in beef.
We can put everything here,
That's
Alex.
impressive.
It is, and one of the best things here is that we have a lot of oxygen when we're rotating.
Okay.
So when we have a lot of oxygen, we can reach those temperatures, and those microorganisms can start digesting all the food waste and wood chips.
And the oxygen, how does that get into this machine?
Well, basically, there's every time the motor turns,
right,
and that steel shaft with paddle turns, so we are aerating all that mass, and we get oxygen inside the mass. Remember that we add wood chips. So the wood chips provide structure to the process.
Okay.
But they also provide pockets of air. So those microorganisms can breathe much happier.
Right.
And in that way, we can be very efficient. And in only 2 weeks, we can produce compost. Just keep in mind, this is a continuous process. Every day we feed the unit. Every day we get compost out. And you can see some of the compost right here.
Sure.
So,
I still think that's impressive, Gerardo. 14 days.
Yes.
And compare that to your average compost pile, or like a municipal
right.
windrow.
I mean, we'll give two comparisons. One of them is for example, when we do composting in our backyard. That takes maybe from 8 months to a year.
Right.
And then when we do it at a municipality, level, when we're doing windrow or injecting air, pumping air, that maybe is going to take between 3 to 6 months. Compared to 2 weeks here,
wow.
That's why this is a very fast process.
Yeah, that's.
And we can see here,
right.
When it turns, we're going to get some compost. And let me open it right here. So that's
Wow.
basically what we're going to get.
This is like perfect for grandma's garden sort of stuff. The dark black, some fine grains here. You can see the wood chips. Some have been completely digested, and that's going to make the garden really pop.
Yes. All those nutrients that we're missing from our soil, that's basically what we're returning back to them. That's one of the best things about doing composting on site, that we can close that loop. We have food waste from the dining hall. We get compost. We use it at our garden. We grow plants. We grow food. It goes back to the dining hall, and then we close the loop. That's one of the most important things that we want to be able to teach. Your students. And everybody else, that we can close the loop on site. That's one of the things we're missing.
On site.
Yes.
As opposed to expanding the loop and having a fossil fuel burning machine, just like the bus passing us to the left here, although that's not a garbage hauler, but it's spewing toxins into our environment. It has to go to a landfill, sometimes all the way in upstate New York, sometimes Pennsylvania, right? All that carbon pollution, that's a very large loop. This is in-house, on campus, massive reduction in carbon footprint, and that's just impressive. As far as methane, I feel like methane is sort of like the silent killer in a way, or at least it's not as well known. Can you talk to us, Gerardo, about not only the importance of the closed loop system, but why and how this is reducing the massive methane problem we have?
Definitely. What happens is that when we send food waste to a landfill, we bury that food waste.
Right.
And when we bury that food waste, there's no oxygen. And then all those microorganisms, they're going to start producing methane. Which is a gas.
So methane is naturally occurring.
It is naturally occurring over there. And in a lot of those landfills, they're not able to extract all that methane. So basically that methane goes out. And methane is worse than CO2. It's like, depending 40 to 50 times worse. And that is something that we produce every time we send food waste to the landfill. One of the things that is important to keep in mind is that most of the times we think that the food waste, once we put it on a bin, it magically disappears because we don't see it anymore.
Right, it goes away.
Not the case.
It goes away.
It just disappears, but
right.
It is not the case. It goes many miles away. For example, we're very close to New York City. New York City waste goes all the way down to Ohio or Virginia.
Really?
Yes.
Ohio or Virginia?
Yes.
They're driving garbage, rotting food, etc. And often this is, when we think of garbage, this is not just food scrap. This is all commingled. We're talking glass, plastic, styrofoam, all that stuff. They're driving it all the way down to Virginia.
They are, in many cases.
Spending all that taxpayer money, burning all those fossil fuels, polluting the roads.
That is correct. But if you think about it, what we're paying for somebody to do is to haul water. Food waste is 75% moisture. So somebody is hauling water many miles away, and that's basically what we're paying for.
75% of food waste is comprised of water.
Correct.
We're paying someone to haul water.
Yes.
So why not, instead of hauling water, haul some butt and make this compost, as a green solution? This is great. Wow, 75%. Huh. Amazing. So what else do we need to know about the Rocket Composter and your other technologies? Because, as you said, it's site-specific. The other day I was interviewing one of my good friends, Field Without Fences. They're these two lovely individuals, Lindsay and Johan, and they run an impressive medicinal food forest. And they told me, Alex, it's all about site specifics. It's all about what does this particular land need, the sunlight, the water, the tilt of the kind of soil. So why does Purchase College have a rocket, and what other solutions do you have if perhaps composting isn't right for you?
Correct. Yes. Every single site has to be specific. There are many technologies out there. In our portfolio, we have waste pulvers, as I mentioned before, anaerobic digesters, aerobic digesters,
Right.
in vessels, dehydrators, and every site, depending on their goals, the labor that they have available,
Right.
what do they want to do with the end product, then that's where we suggest to do either composting, produce energy from the food waste, grind it, and then maybe send it to a very close composting site,
Okay.
or do it as a pre-treatment and then put it in one of our units. But at the end of the day, one of the things that is important for people to know is that there is one solution available for every single site.
One solution that the food waste experts, you, Gerardo Soto, can provide for every single site.
That is correct.
And can you, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to, because I know you know this, and perhaps some of our viewers aren't really, keen and super clear on what an in vessel, what an aerobic, what an anaerobic, what a dehydrator, like what are all the products you offer, and what specifically do they do?
Correct. So the in-vessel composter, we already went through that, so
Right.
they know about the rocket. Then the aerobic digesters. An aerobic digester, what happens is that we use microorganisms and we put it into the system along with water. And those microorganisms, they digest the food waste, turn it into water, and it goes down the sewage.
Down the sewer using existing plumbing.
Correct. So
Okay.
we're using already actual infrastructure, and we're sending all that wastewater to the wastewater treatment facility. So we're closing the loop at the wastewater treatment facility.
And you're also, if you're that type of organization, nonprofit, school, business, whatever, that does not want to deal with or have room for compost, you're looking at, when you look at, the food waste experts, you're looking at an aerobic
Correct.
digester.
Yes.
Because that will not produce compost, it'll produce a liquid, water, sludgy water, not even sludgy, just like a really viscous water that just looks like water but brown.
Correct. Yes. And that's another solution. It's very simple to operate.
Okay.
And also is very cost effective. Then we also have dehydrators, where we have a place where there's a lot of contamination, for example, an airport. So what we do is we dehydrate the food waste with all the contamination, and then we screen all that contamination. We use that sterile biomass and we burn it and we produce power.
And I want to unpack that whole process, because often enough, like you were talking about how critical it was earlier for schools to understand this, and for students to understand this as a closed system, that what goes in comes out and you can use that. But for airports and other places that might not have the time and the inclination to train their consumers or their people, so to speak, they would have a commingled stream. You'd have plastic, glass, other things with the garbage. So with this process of dehydrator, how exactly do you go from food waste mixed with other garbage that can't be composted or made into energy to remove those contaminants, those toxins, those plastics?
Definitely. So what we do is we get that food waste with the contamination.
Okay.
We put it into a very large dehydrator, which removes all the water. As we discussed before, food waste is 75% moisture.
Right.
So we remove all that water, and then we get the sterile biomass along with the plastics, metal, all that contamination. And then we have an automatic process where we screen and we remove all that contamination. And
some
with
sort
the
of conveyor belt with machines or
correct. It's
Okay.
like a conveyor, circle conveyor.
okay.
And then we're able to remove all those type of materials. And then with the end product, we burn it, and then we can produce hot water, we can produce power.
And you burn the byproduct of methane after heating it.
Well, not in this case, we don't produce any methane.
Oh, you literally just burn the sterile biomass.
Yes, we burn the sterile biomass. So it's a biomass, and when we burn it. So in this
Gotcha.
case, there's no methane. Then we have anaerobic digesters,
Okay.
which, yes, like
Anaerobic,
you
no
mentioned,
oxygen,
no
anaerobic.
oxygen, anaerobic.
Right.
And in that case, what we do is we separate the food waste into two pieces. One of them is the solids and the liquids. And the liquids, we put them into big containers where there's no oxygen. And then it starts producing methane. We can capture that methane, and with that methane, we can produce power.
Do you heat up that liquid waste in order to produce methane, or does it happen naturally?
Well, it happens naturally, but we also give them a little bit of a help because we're constantly moving that. And that's how we get those temperatures, and then we can produce that methane. So that's another option that we have in order to produce power from food waste. We need to keep in mind that we need to have a lot of food waste in order to be cost effective.
For the dehydration method?
Well, for the dehydration and also for the anaerobic digesters. We're talking about a couple of tons per day.
A couple of tons per day. So,
yes.
so prisons maybe, or major universities, hospitals?
Well,
maybe even...
It's a little bit...
cities?
Big prisons, we can have cities, but also we got to keep in mind that we have a lot of distribution centers where there's a lot of food waste.
Can you explain to our viewers what a distribution center is? I'm just going to pan out here because I like to see that this is a beautiful machine, and it's saving the world. I mean, in a really sort of non-cliche way. This is literally reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So,
for example, we have supermarkets that they have a distribution center where all of their food comes, and then they separate to all the different stores that they have.
Okay.
So
got it. The supplier for the
At those places, they are gonna have, unfortunately, there's gonna be a lot of food waste.
Right.
Because a lot of that food is gonna go wrong because you only have certain amount of time, otherwise it goes bad.
Yeah. Right.
So that's where you're gonna be producing a lot of that food waste as well. So those places produce lots of food waste, which can be turned into either a biomass or into methane, and then use it as power.
That's fascinating, and that's fascinating. So, I think that I see a future where every town, every city, specifically every school, right, has some sort of rocket composter, whether it's a small model or the like you said, site specific, the most appropriate model, because that'll be a beautiful learning lesson. You're reducing methane, reducing CO2 emissions, reducing carbon being burnt, saving fossil fuels, and you can calculate out carbon footprint reduction. You can calculate out the amount of tax money that the parents of public schools or the parents of private schools aren't paying through tax or tuition by using the rocket composter. So I just wanted to thank you, and if we could I just want to take one more look over here, Gerardo.
Sure.
This is again the finished product, that beautiful black soil. 14 days, ladies and gents, the rocket composter, and over here, I just had to see the beautiful art the students made. Grow soil, not landfill. This is not elementary, ladies and gents.